Production of Real Ag is made possible in part by an underwriting grant from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by farmers.
I keep reading about engineered corn, but I don't know what that means.
Spring water, purified water, what's the difference?
Is imported beef safe for my family?
Consumers want to know the facts about the products they buy. That's where Real Ag comes in. From plant to plant and from pasture to plate, Kyle Bauer and the Real Ag crew find the facts to help you sort the truth and help you understand Real Ag. Now here's your host, Kyle Bauer.
People think of veterinarians as doctors who treat sick animals, but they play a much larger role, especially in food production. Tonight on Real Ag, we're talking about veterinarians. The veterinarian has a very specific role in agriculture.
And many times the veterinarian's role within the food production system is going to be trying to prevent diseases from occurring in cattle or in pigs or in chickens or different types of animals that produce animal protein. And they're going to be able to work with producers to understand how the prevention of those diseases results in an animal that's healthier, that's better cared for, and that nature. The other thing that veterinarians will do is they will help producers be able to identify which animals are having issues, which animals within the herd are sick, which animals need treatment, which animals do we need to give special attention to. The last thing that the veterinarian does, and very important, is how do we manage vaccines or the drugs or antibiotics in which we use to help treat these animals. And so developing a decision tree for a farmer to work with the farmer, and the veterinarian may be the one that actually treats the sick or injured animal, or they might work with the farmer to understand better how they can treat or administer the nursing care of those animals while they're not there on the farm.
We provide emergency care for cattle that are calving that are having difficulty. We provide regular herd health care on a routine basis. We help them with reproductive issues, make sure that we get good calves going along, help them with health issues, preventative care.
There are a lot of industry tools already developed for animal welfare. You know, when you look at the Beef Quality Assurance Program, you look at the Pork Quality Assurance Plus program, PQA Plus, the farm program developed for dairy animal welfare assessment. And there's two things that veterinarians that I see have really played a big role in. One is going out to the farm and making sure that the employees are certified within the individual training that's brought forth by the industry. The other job that the veterinarian has, and this is why it's really important for the veterinarian to be on the farm. We're looking at animal welfare or antimicrobial residue avoidance or different things that are answered in these assessment programs for on-farm assessment. Having that veterinarian on the farm with a valid veterinary client-patient relationship, meaning that I have a relationship as a veterinarian with the producer and I'm on the farm and I see the herd and I visually appraise or work with these producers on this. And I think that when we look down the road 20, 30, 40 years from now, the most integral partnership of providing that safe, wholesome, affordable food supply and assuring the consumer that it's there is that veterinarian's relationship on the farm with the producer working in their herds.
We monitor sickness in the herd, so we might know what the health challenges in a particular herd are. We help them with their husbandry. We help them develop vaccination protocols so that we know what to vaccinate and when we need to vaccinate in order for that vaccine to be effective. We help them with their nutrition. Nutrition is a key component of any animal health program. If we don't eat well, it's hard to stay disease-free or have a low level of disease in a herd. And so we help with all of those different things, and sometimes we just help as a catalyst to and a contact to other professionals. Say if we're in a situation where we need some expert help in a particular field of whether it's nutrition, whether it's working with the disease process and working with veterinarians here at the university at the diagnostic lab. When we do have a problem, we're the contact person, we're the person that relays, gets them in touch with other people that we need to build a team of individuals and a team of managers and a team of people to produce a great product.
Veterinarians have to do continuing education, and depending on the state in which you're in, it might be 20 to 30 hours of documented continuing education at a local or national or international meeting. Some of them might be 30, 40 hours, but every state has a requirement now for veterinarians that we have to have documented hours of continuing education. It can be on numerous topics, but it's something that is definitely required. It's understanding production systems, understanding how we can prevent disease from occurring, whether it's through proper preconditioning of baby calves before they're shipped from the ranch to the feedlot, or strategies to decrease injuries within animals and other production systems.
Every farm that we work with has a different set of resources and a different set of labor resources, a different set of environmental resources, a different set of feed resources. Just communicating between each other and making sure that I know what their goals are, they know why I am asking them to do a particular vaccine or a particular procedure or whatever, and so that we're all on the same page, because not all producers know if there is a side effect and what the cost and benefit ratio of those kind of things is. So communication, I think, is a key part of any veterinary client relationship.
Some veterinarians become pet doctors. Others become doctors for livestock.
I'll break it down, the difference between companion animal veterinarians and food animal veterinarians. We used to have the term small and large animal veterinarians, and then we have what we call mixed animal veterinarians, or our rural practitioners a lot of times are mixed, and that means they're kind of the old James Harriet, all creatures great and small type of mentality. And the big thing is now we've separated it, food producing animals or food animal medicine and companion animal medicine. And on companion animal medicine, we're going to be talking about doctors that specialize in dogs, cats, exotics, fish, zoo medicine, equine medicine. Those are all companion animals. It's the animals that we don't consume for food. And then on the food animal veterinarian, we're going to be talking about people who are going to work in the production units, dairy practitioners, bovine practitioners, swine practitioners, poultry, and so that's the big difference in what we do. As far as what's the difference in their education, there really isn't. We as veterinarians go through an education process and we learn all species equally when we go through veterinary school. The difference is when you get out and you start to specialize. And if you get out and you start to specialize, then you start honing in on more continuing education for the species that you specialize. But a lot of times the mixed animal practitioner is going to, they're going to work with all species. So they're going to go to a mixed continuing education process.
We hear people talking about animal rights and animal welfare. What's the difference?
Animal rights groups use animal abuse incidents to drive animal welfare legislation. 3 important terms I used in there: animal rights, animal abuse, and animal welfare. Animal rights is a belief that animals have the same rights as humans. And if you believe that animals have the same rights as humans, that's a moral belief or something of your ethical or moral value. And if you believe that animals have the same rights as humans, you're probably not going to eat them. Animal abuse is the intentional hurting of an animal, and we see that sometimes highlighted on the news, correct? Where the downed animal and the person doesn't understand maybe how to get that animal to stand up, and we work a lot as veterinarians to prevent animal abuse through training of farmers and employees on how to properly move down animals, when to humanely euthanize or put that cow down from an animal that's not going to recover. And so we spend a lot of times as veterinarians working on training of farmers and employees to prevent animal abuse incidents. Animal welfare to me is animal husbandry. It's doing the chores, it's breaking water so that cows have a place to drink when the pond's frozen over, it's nutrition, preventative medicine, vaccinations. It's the things that we do on a day-to-day basis to care for our animals. And so a lot of times animal rights and animal welfare are used in political games to kind of change, the thought process of what one, and blend that term. But animal rights is a belief that animals have the same rights as humans. Animal welfare is animal husbandry, doing the chores, preventative medicine, providing shelter.
The animals are always, at the forefront of our goal of everything, the health, welfare, everything involving them, but also finding ways to help the producers and the owners and the operators to become the most efficient that they can with those animals, and that comes from health, nutrition management, general welfare issues, help to educate them so that they can produce the best product that they can and produce it in the most efficient and most humane way that they possibly can. So that's kind of a role where you play both sides of working with producers and also, working directly with the animals.
We've evolved into the ability to understand what we call production medicine. And production medicine is understanding how production systems influence the health of the animals. One of the things that's very important for animals to maintain a healthy immune system or to be able to fight off diseases is to make sure that these animals have dry, comfortable places to lay down and rest, and to provide shelter and from wind in the wintertime, and to provide shade or relief in times of heat stress in the summer. No different than what we would seek as human beings. And when you look at the 5 freedoms that you need to provide animals, freedom from thirst and hunger, freedom from pain, injury, and disease, freedom from fear and distress, and then you get down to some of the others, and the big one is the ability to express normal behavior. I think that when I'm starting to look at, as a veterinarian, how do I help that animal within production systems express normal behavior and provide these freedoms in which we provide the animals. First of all, there have been some studies, consumer studies done, and we've asked consumers to define animal welfare. And when you ask 5 consumers how to define animal welfare, you get 6 different answers. People are confused, and rightly so, because there's a lot of different groups out there with different agendas pushing different definitions of animal welfare on our public. But at the end of the day, when the consumer was asked, if you had one thing that you associated with food safety in animal production, what would it be? And it came back to animal health. And they asked, okay, what about animal welfare? And when it came back to how does a consumer identify or resonate good animal welfare, it's a healthy animal. And so it comes back to keeping those animals healthy has a big role in the perception of the consumer and the American public of understanding that this is an animal that's well cared for with good animal welfare practices being involved, and it's going to provide a safer, more wholesome food. You can't manage cattle or pigs with a bottle. Okay, we use antibiotics, we use vaccines, but unless we have these animals in an environment, in a production system that is conducive for a healthy, thriving animal, the antibiotics and the vaccines don't have a chance to work.
A very important part of a vet's job is determining when to administer vaccines and antibiotics.
But on a day-to-day basis, we're following the guidelines as veterinarians put down to us from the Food and Drug Administration or the FDA. All of our antibiotics and drugs, vaccines are approved by the United States Department of Agriculture as far as safety and efficacy. Antibiotics are approved by the Food and Drug Administration for safety and efficacy. So those 2 groups manage 2 important biologicals or pharmaceuticals that we use as veterinarians on a day-to-day basis. They also help develop the labels in which those are to be used within animals per the guidelines of safety and efficacy of the product. We also work with the FDA for prevention of antimicrobial residues in meat products or in beef products or whatever species you're looking at. Antimicrobial residues are any type of small residue of an antibiotic or a drug within the final product.
A vaccine is an antigen or a group of antigens which represent the disease we want to vaccinate against. So we would pull, for example, one protein out of a specific bacteria that we want the immune system to say, ha, that shouldn't be here, we're going to go after it. So that's a vaccine. They do have withdrawal times because of some of the things that are in them to help them be more effective or preserve them. Now a drug is something like an antibiotic, a hormone, something to take down inflammation that we would use to either prevent or address disease. These are, they can be naturally produced from bacteria or they can be synthetically made that we would administer. Drugs, when they're approved for use in food animals, go through a process where potential toxicity is determined. Safety factors are figured in, like a 1,000-fold safety factor. Then they figure out how much could possibly be in the amount of a meat product we'd be expected to eat in a day. And with that, they determine a tolerance. How much could be there and the food still be safe for human consumption with a wide safety factor. The veterinarian is responsible for making sure that the producer adheres to the withdrawal times, is aware of them, and has a system set up to adhere to those withdrawal times so that the food product has concentrations below that tolerance. So the way an antibiotic would be used for disease treatment, let's use cattle since we're in Kansas. The animal would be identified. Typically we would have clinical signs we look for, say it's pneumonia, which is a very common disease that can happen in cattle. And then we bring them in for further evaluation. We may listen to their lungs, we may determine their rectal temperature, and from all that together decide whether we're going to administer an antibiotic or not. In the vast majority of the feedlots now, that animal would get an individual animal identification number, and some of them may already have it, and that would be entered into an electronic record system. And in that electronic record system, the animal's identification is teamed with the diagnosis, the drug that was given, and the withdrawal time. So when these animals are shipped, when they're done with their production period, the computer program allows you to go in and say, this group of cattle is being shipped. I want to know if any still have a withdrawal time in effect. And if they do, we won't ship that group of animals until that is in effect. Same in swine. In dairy, lactating dairy cow that's being milked right now is given a drug. They'll put a leg band on her and she's held in a separate group, and they know that milk can't go into tank for so many days. A lot of things have been said about modern production agriculture getting larger or getting too sophisticated or whatever. But one of the things we've done in these units is they become really, really focused on these areas, is our ability to identify animals that cannot go to harvest, cannot have milk collected, is really improving and is very, very precise. So we've increased our ability to prevent those residues from entering the market.
Veterinarians can go into private practice, work for a company, or even the government.
I'm sure everyone's aware that we have fewer producers getting larger. We tend to produce the same number of animals with fewer producers. Our interaction with those producers has tended to change. We used to call it fire engine practice, and we still do that as a veterinarian, where we come out for an individual animal with a problem or help them with individual cases. As we get to the larger producers, our interaction becomes moved towards training the producers and their crews to interact properly with the routine things. Veterinarians from all types of practices consult with clients. A few of us have had the opportunity or have the opportunity now to be a full-time consultant, where they have groups that they go around and visit on a routine basis and provide information to and help do the programs. That is not uniform across the profession. Many veterinarians might have a general or a combined practice, and then they may have a few clients that they do more of a consulting role for. So when we say consultants, I don't want to give the impression that half the veterinarians that are involved with food animal would be considered a sole consultant. Many of them balance consulting with a primary care role.
Veterinarians work with many different government agencies, and the first one is the state licensing boards. Okay, and so there's the Kansas State Veterinary Licensing Board, or each state has a licensing board, which is a board of veterinarians or lay people that are appointed to the board to kind of regulate, making sure that veterinarians get their CE. They look at potential malpractice type of claims, things that to make sure that veterinary medicine is regulated. They have a premise registration for your veterinary clinic. All of these different things fall underneath the purview of the state licensing boards within each state. On a federal level, veterinarians are involved with the United States Department of Agriculture. They're also involved with the Food and Drug Administration. With the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we're writing health papers, right? And health papers is a certificate that as a veterinarian, I write down on a piece of paper that this animal is healthy, free of disease, and able to transport across state lines. So we'll work with those for animal transport, and we're also the kind of the boots on the ground person that's saying, hey, this is my client, these are their animals. If you're going to the county fair, or you're going to the National Stock Show in Denver, you know, we're going to be able to write health papers that you can transport those animals to the show, that these animals are healthy and able to be transported and commingled with other animals. There are a lot of veterinarians that work within academic institutions. There are veterinarians that work in public health. In USDA, or the United States Department of Agriculture, you know, inspection at slaughter facilities is a very important job of veterinarians, to not only look at the animals live prior to going through the slaughter process, but then looking at the carcass, looking at the offal or lymph nodes, different tissues that might tell us that there's something in that carcass that might increase its risk, that we don't want to consume. That is a huge role that the veterinary profession plays on a day-to-day basis of providing a safe, wholesome food supply. Veterinarians are within the FDA for drug approval trials, different types of standardization of antibiotics, residue.
Food animal vets form a special bond with the community they serve.
I grew up in a veterinary clinic and initially left that realizing all the realities of veterinary practice and decided I'd go into something else, law or medicine. But after studying and looking at other fields, I came back to it. I like being in rural areas. I like working with producers. I think ag producers are the best people in the world. I really enjoy working with them. And that's probably the people that are associated with food animal production and the interest in food animal production is what eventually brought me there.
When I chose to go to veterinary school, it was a decision based on multiple factors. I wanted to continue my education. That's something I've always enjoyed, learning and higher education. And being from a farm and rural ag background, I love rural Kansas and rural America, and this was a career that easily allowed me to kind of combine my love of production agriculture and animals in general with also my desires to work with members of our rural communities that make their living in agriculture, and that's what I find very rewarding, trying to help those individuals and interacting with them on a day-to-day basis.
Having the veterinarian on the farm is so important to the future, not only of veterinary medicine, but to the future of animal agriculture in general. I don't think that there could be a more important relationship as we move down the road with being able to assure animal welfare, antimicrobial residue avoidance, food safety, and again, consumer assurance than that veterinary farmer, veterinary rancher relationship.
It's a great relationship. Most of our work, a lot of the really fun work is done over cups of coffee at kitchen tables. And we become friends with these producers. And they are just a joy to work with. They are salt of the earth, hardworking people who really, really care about what they produce. Not only because it influences their family's well-being, but the well-being of everybody in general.
That wraps it up for this episode of Real Ag. We hope the information presented here gives you a better understanding of how crucial veterinarians are to animal agriculture. On behalf of the Real Ag crew, I'm Kyle Bauer, helping you sort the truth and helping you understand Real Ag.
Production of Real Ag is made possible in part by an underwriting grant from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by farmers.